Unit 3 Photo. Hi everybody, my name is Rupa. I am working as Assistant Professor in Chevron Engineering College in the Department of Electrical and Electronics Engineering. I am dealing the subject Renewable Energy Sources, and today topic is third unit, fresh unit, Solar Photovoltaics. Solar Photovoltaics. Unit 3 Photovoltaic Systems. So in this photovoltaic systems, we will see the photovoltaic effects and what are the photovoltaic cells and what is the principle of this photovoltaic cell and what are the semiconductor junctions P-type and N-type. Already what we have taught in previous classes, and how it is used for power generation, and what are the batteries, inverters, and what are the advantages and disadvantages of this photovoltaic solar energy conversion, we will see in this unit. This is the first topic in the third unit. It is solar electric power generation. This electric power generation is done through solar photovoltaic cells, solar cells. Okay, so first we will see the introduction and we will go further. So what is a photovoltaic process and what is the photovoltaic cell, we will see. So this is a direct conversion of solar energy into electrical energy. This is done by a means of photovoltaic effect. This effect means it is the conversion of light or some other any electromagnetic radiation directly into the electricity. So this photovoltaic effect is actually defined as, it is defined as the generation of electromotive force as a result of absorption of ionization radiation. It is the definition of photovoltaic effect. So in this, energy conversion will be done, and the devices which are used to convert sunlight into electricity by the use of photovoltaic effect are called as solar cells. Okay, so these cells are used to convert the sunlight into electricity by using photovoltaic effect. A single converter cell in this is called as solar cell, or we can generally call it as photovoltaic cell. And this combination is a combination of such cells, means number of cells. If you take a combination, these are designed into increase the electric power output. So this combination of such cells is called as solar module or solar array. This is the photovoltaic cell. If such cells are combined into a stack, it is called as solar module or solar array. So these photovoltaic cells, these are made up of semiconductors. These semiconductors generate electricity when they absorb light. Because as photons are received from the sunlight, free electrical charges are generated and these are collected on contacts applied to the surface of semiconductors. Okay, so because solar cells are not heat engines, they do not act as a heat engine, so they do not operate at high temperatures. They are adapted to weak energy flux of solar radiations and these are operating at room temperatures only. So you know how what is the room temperature means, it is approx 32 degrees. Okay, so these devices are efficient at the order of only 25% only. These are efficiently working up to extent of 25% only. Actually, operating efficiencies are less than half this value also, because these are decreased with increasing temperatures. If you increase beyond the room temperature, the efficiencies may decrease. The best known application of photovoltaic cell for electrical power generation is in spacecrafts. In these spacecrafts, silicon solar cell is mostly highly developed type. What is that? In spacecrafts, silicon solar cell is mostly highly developed one. This silicon cell, it consists of single crystal of silicon. Into this single crystal of silicon, it contains a doping material which is diffused to form a semiconductor. Okay, this single silicon silicon crystal, when doped with some materials, I will say, we will see the materials, what are the doping materials in next classes. So if you dope this single crystal of silicon, it is formed into a semiconductor. In early ages of solar cell development, many improvements have been in crystal growing and doping equipment, and electrical contact and cell assembly and production methods. All these are developing in nature, and large amounts of cells have been manufactured with areas 2 into 2 centimeters. But this has low efficiencies, only low efficiencies of only 10%. And the operating temperature of these cells are at 28 degrees Celsius only. So the efficiency is the power developed per unit area of array divided by the solar energy flux in free space. So this accounts up to 1.353 kilowatts per meter square. These photovoltaic cells are also used for terrestrial applications. In terrestrial applications, these silicon solar cells are having operating efficiencies of about 12 to 15%. So this is less than the normal room temperature's efficiency percentage. We know that silica is the earth's most abundant materials, and it is also very expensive to extract. It is extracted from sand, where it occurs mostly in the form of SiO2. Silicon will be existing in the form of SiO2, and from this SiO2 we have to extract the only silicon, and this is extracted and refined to the purity required for solar cells. So if it is extracted, it does not be applied to the known applications of photovoltaic cells, but it has to be again refined to the purity extent, to the extent of purity. What is the purity level required for us to work as a solar cell? It has to be purified to that extent. The great barrier to solar cell application lies in the cost of these cells themselves. Okay, so our barrier means what is the resistance, what is the resistivity known for the application of silicon, means because of its high cost, this acts as a barrier to use for this photovoltaic effects. So if you can reduce the cost of silicon cell, we can actually use this silicon cell for various applications. Still different applications will be used. One of the ways to reduce the cost of silicon is if it is produced continuously in thin ribbons. Thin ribbons, if you produce this silicon, then single crystal silicon fabrication can reduce the cost. So cells made from this ribbon has efficiency of about 8%. Okay, the extracted cells from this ribbon, it has a efficiency of around 8%. We are having several other kinds of photocells in the laboratory stage of development, but still they are not developed. But one of the famous developing photocells are cadmium sulfide and CdS/Cu2s cells. These are other possibilities of silicon. So far, efficiencies have been ranged from 3 to 8% of this cadmium sulfates, and these cells have been less durable than silicon cells because there will be a degradation with exposure to oxygen or water vapor and sunlight. Especially when these are exposed to oxygen, water vapor and sunlight, these will be degrading at elevated temperatures. The active part of CDS cell is a thin polycrystalline layer of CDS, and it is having a thickness of about 10 micrometers thickness, on which a layer of Cu2S compound is there. So this Cu2S is about of thickness 0.1 micrometers. Okay, this CDS is grown with the combination of Cu2S. Okay, so on the CDS we are having a layer of Cu2S of about thickness 0.1 micrometers, and these cells are made by deposition on longer sheets of substrates. A process this is called as separating process, and this process is adaptable to expensive mass production also. And these photovoltaic cells are applicable to either small or large power plants. These can be used for small power plants as well as large power plants because they function well on small scale. Okay, these are adaptable to local energy generation on building rooftops. The cost of energy storage and power conditioning equipment might make generation in large power plants most economical method. So solar cells have been used to operate to various applications. These are the applications such as irrigation pumps, navigational signals, highway emergency call systems, railroad crossing warnings, automatic meteorological stations, etc. So because we are using in these areas only, because here location these are the locations where access to utility of power lines is difficult. Okay, so at these places we cannot have power lines. So in order to compromise the advantages of power lines, disadvantages of power lines, here we are using photovoltaic cells. So actually photovoltaic system, this can be also called as PV system. It consists of, first part, it consists of solar cell array, and second one is load leveler, third one is storage system, and fourth one is tracking system. This is used, the fourth one, tracking system, is used whenever necessary only. Okay, so optional to fourth one, we are having three types of this is having three types of apparatus here in this. So actually in actual usage, these solar cells are interconnected. Okay, so there's this combination, this interconnection combination can be in series or parallel. So this series and parallel combinations, they forms as a modules or arrays. These modules are hermetically sealed for protection against, first one, corrosion, second one, moisture, third one, pollution, and fourth one, weathering. Okay, so these modules are sealed for the protection of corrosion, moisture, pollution and weathering. And these combination of suitable modules, these consist an array. All these suitable modules forms as an array. Suppose if you take 1 square meter of fixed array keeping facing north, this gives nearly 0.5 kilowatt hours of electrical energy. So 0.5 kilowatts hours of electrical energy we can get when a fixed array of 1 square meter is kept in facing south in a normal sunny day. Okay, so if this orientation of the array is adjusted to the face of sun's rays at any time, means from first hour to last hour in the whole day, if you orient this array to the sun's direction, then we can increase the output of before value to 30%. Okay, so without orientation we are getting only 0.5 kilowatt hours of electrical energy in the whole day if you kept in south. But if the array follows the sun's tracking, then this output will be increasing by 30%. Okay, next, solar PV system, it can produce an output only if sunlight is present. This is the major disadvantage. We will discuss afterwards what are the disadvantages of PV system. Okay, so if it is required to be used in non-sunshine hours, a suitable system of storage batteries will be required. So again, this makes this PV cells a costliest equipment because we have to extra use the storage batteries in non-sunshine hours. Next, we will study about solar cells principles. So how this solar cell will be developed and what is the principle behind the solar cell, we will deal now. So a photovoltaic effect, it can be observed in nature in a variety of materials. But these materials which have shown the best performance in sunlight are called as semiconductors. So we are saying the semiconductors as above example of silicon. So each and every material has a photovoltaic principle, but to some extent, if you measure the photovoltaic effect, it is up to the extent. We observe this extent up in some materials only. So those materials are called as semiconductors. When photons from the sun, we get photons from the solar radiations. When photons from the sun are absorbed in the semiconductor, these create free electrons with higher energies. Okay, so normal electrons, what they are having, more than those normal electrons energies, these are created. Okay, so actually if you burn the base crystal, the energies will be emitting from the electrons. So what we are getting the energies in this photovoltaic method is more than the energies, those with normal electrons. So once these electrons are created, there must be an electric field to induce these higher energies electrons to flow out of the semiconductor for our purpose, for our useful works. Okay, so this electric field in most solar cells, it is provided by a junction of materials which have different properties. The junction of materials having different properties, the materials which are having different properties are made to equal, contact made to contact, and because of this contact there will be a junction formed between these two materials. So this junction of materials is having different electrical properties. To obtain a useful power output from the photon interaction in a semiconductor, we require three processes. First process is the photons have to be observed in the active parts. What is the active part in the material? These photons should be observed by this active part. And this results in electrons. They are excited to a higher energy potential levels. Then electrons will be excited to a higher energy potential levels. And second process is the electron hole charge carrier. There will be an electron hole charge carrier. It is created by the absorption, which is created by the absorption of these photons. It must be physically separated and it should be moved to the edge of the cell. any edge, this side or that side, right side or left side, it should be the electron hole charge carrier created by the absorption of these photons. It should be physically separated and it should move to the edge of the cells. And the third process is the charge carriers should be removed from the cell. Okay, so these charge carriers are the electron hole charge carriers or whatever. These charge carriers should be removed from the cell and these should be delivered to a useful load before they lose their extra potential. So if you are using for some application, these charge carriers should be removed from the cell and they have to be delivered to the application what we are using before their potential is exhausted. Okay, so for completing this above process, the solar cell consists of some intensities. We will see in next slide. So what we have discussed, three types of three processes for delivering the output to the applications what we are using. So for completing above three processes, the solar cell should have these. First one is it should be a semiconductor, in semiconductor electron hole pairs, these are created by the absorption of incident solar radiations. Okay, so it should be acting as a semiconductor. In this semiconductor, it is having electron hole pairs. These are created by the solar radiation photons. And second one, region containing a drift field for charge separation. A region must be there. Separation of a region must be there. In that drift field for what is that means? Drift. It is a drift field, because this field will be separating the this should be at the end so that we can separate the charge. Okay, so a semiconductor should have a region which contains a drift field for charge separation. And third one is charge collecting front and back electrodes. Okay, front and back both sides there should be electrodes, these which are used for collecting the charge and transporting the charge. So what we discussed before, it is a photovoltaic effect, and this photovoltaic effect, it can be easily described for PN junction in a semiconductors. We are having a PN junction. Due to P and N, there forms a junction called PN junction in semiconductors. So this photovoltaic effect can be easily described by this PN junction semiconductor diodes. Okay, so in this, if you are using a silicon, I am taking a semiconductor. For example, silicon I am taking. So in silicon, each of 1,4 valence electrons of the material atom, they are tied in a chemical bond. Okay, each of valence electrons, each of 4 valence electrons of a material atom, in a material atom, these are tied in a chemical bond, and there are no free electrons. There will be no free electrons at absolute zero. So if a piece of such a material is doped on one side by 5 valence electron material. Okay, so this silicon is doped on one side by 5 valence electron material. Suppose 5 valence electron materials are example of arsenic, phosphorus. Okay, so there will be an excess electrons in that side. So on that side where to this silicon I am doping arsenic or phosphorus. In silicon we are having 4 valence electrons, and in arsenic and phosphorus we are having 5 valence electrons. Okay, so this arsenic I am taking example as this arsenic is doped on one side of the silicon. Okay, so there will be on one side where it is doped, on which side it is doped, it will be having excess electrons in that side, and it becomes a n-type semiconductor. Okay, silicon having 4 valence electrons and arsenic having or phosphorus having 5. So because of the excess electrons it is having on that side, that becomes n-type semiconductor. These excess electrons, they will be partially free to move in the semiconductor lattice. Okay, these moves freely. These electrons which are excess, these moves freely in the semiconductor lattice. Okay, so the other side is empty. When the other side of the same silicon, it is doped with 3 valence electron materials. Okay, so the other side is empty and we are doping that other side of silicon with only 3 valence electron materials. What are the 3 valence electron materials? Examples such as boron. Okay, so there will be, in boron there are 3 valence electrons. In silicon there are 4. So there will be deficiency of electrons. So this deficiency of electrons makes it p-type semiconductor. So on silicon, one is n-type side, one side is n-type and other side is p-type. So in p-type there is a deficiency of electrons and in n-type there is extra electrons present there. So this deficiency is of electrons, it is expressed in terms of excess of holes. Okay, on n-type electrons will be moving free in the semiconductor lattice and we are defining the deficiency of electrons as holes in p-type. Okay, so the holes in p-type will move freely in the lattice. So if you take such piece of semiconductor with one side of p region and other side of n region, it is called as p-n junction. Okay, so one side of p-type and other side of n-type, it is called as p-n junction. So in this junction, after the photons are observed in p-n junction, after the solar radiations, photons will be there. If photons are observed, the free electrons of n side, look, and in n side free electrons will be there, in p side holes will be there. Okay, so after the absorption of photons, free electrons on the n side, they will tend to flow to the p side and holes of the p side, they will tend to flow to the n region. Because there are deficiencies in both, they will compensate each other. So in order to compensate the deficiencies, because in n-type electrons are there, no holes. In p-type holes are there, no electrons. So in order to compensate for these deficiencies, they will be tend to flowing in opposite directions. Okay, so this diffusion, this flowing, this tending to flow, this creates a electric field EF for the N region to the P region. Okay, so this diffusion creates a electric field EF region from the N region to the P region. This field will increase until it reaches equilibrium value VE. Okay, so this diffusion, this transfer of holes and electrons will be ending when they reaches the equilibrium position VE. The sum of diffusion potentials for holes and electrons, it is the sum of diffusion potentials for holes and electrons, equilibrium VE. So if electrical contacts are made with the two semiconductor materials and if these contacts are connected through an external electric conductor, free electrons will flow from n-type material through the conductor. Okay, so in between, if you connect a conductor, the free electrons in the n will be flowing to the p-type through this conductor what we have connected. Okay, see here in the diagram. This is the n region, this is the p region, and we are taking in n region electrons will be there, in p region holes will be there. See, electrons are denoted as minus symbol and holes are denoted as plus symbol. So if you make a contact in between N and P, these electrons will flow from N type material through the conductor into the P. Okay. So here free electrons will enter the holes and become bound electrons. These free electrons will be entering from the conductor to the P region and they become bound electrons. Okay, thus both free electrons and holes will be removed. So in this way both the electrons and holes are removed, and the flow of electrons through the external conductor, it constitutes an electric current which will continue as long as free electrons and holes are being formed by the solar radiations. Okay, so electric current in the conductor will be continue to flow until the solar radiations exist. Okay, so this is the basics of photovoltaic conversion. This is the conversion of solar energy directly into electrical energy without converting into other energies. So this is the direct process where solar energy is converted into electrical energy. And the combination of N-type and P-type semiconductors constitutes a photovoltaic cell or solar cell. Okay, the combination both must be present. Combination of both P-type and N-type semiconductors, they forms a photovoltaic or solar cells. So all such cells, they generate direct current which the direct current can be converted into alternating current if you want. Okay, the current generated by this can be converted. This is the direct current we are getting output as direct current, DC current. So it can be converted into alternating current by our applications. So what type of applications we are using? So for the required application, what we are using the current, we can desiredly convert it. The normal configuration for a solar cell to make a PN junction semiconductor is shown in this figure. We can see in this figure. The junction of P and N type materials provides an electric field. This provides an electric field which separates the charge created by the absorption of sunlight. Okay, this provides a electric field. This one separates the charge created by the absorption of sunlight. This PN junction is usually obtained by putting a P-type base material into a diffusion furnace containing a gaseous N-type dopant. Okay, so this dopant is such as phosphorus, and we are allowing the N dopant to diffuse into the surface of about 0.2 micrometers thickness. Okay, so thus this junction is formed slightly below the planar surface, planar surface of the cell, and the light impinges perpendicular to the junction. Light will be falling perpendicular to these junctions. So the junction will be horizontal like this, light will be falling perpendicular to it. The positive and negative charges created by the absorption of photons are thus encouraged to drift to the front and back of the solar coils. So the back is completely covered by a metallic contact. Here the back metal conductor, the back of the photovoltaic cell is covered by a metallic contact to remove the charges to the electric load. These are used to remove the charges to the electric load. So the collection of charges from the front of the cell are added by a fine grid of narrow metallic fingers. Okay, the surface coverage of the conducting collectors is typically of about 5% to allow as much light as possible at the junction areas, to allow as much as light. Okay, so anti-reflective coating is applied on the top of the cell. Anti-reflective coating, it is applied on the top of the cell. This diagram, it demonstrates, it shows how this PN junction provides an electrical field. How this PN junction provides an electrical field that sweeps the electrons in one direction and the positive holes in the other directions. Okay, so if the junction is in thermodynamic equilibrium, then the Fermi energy, this is the Fermi level, then the Fermi energy must be uniform throughout the junctions. Okay, so since the Fermi levels is near the top of the gap of n-doped material, okay, this is nearer to the top of the n-doped material, and nearer to the bottom of p-doped side. Okay, this is nearer to the top of gap of an n-doped material and it is nearer to the bottom of p-doped side. A electric field will be existing at the junction. Okay, electric field will be existing in the junction. So this electric field, it provides the charge separation function of the cell. The electric field which is provided gives the charge separation function of the cell. One of the important characteristics of this Fermi level is that in thermodynamic equilibrium, it is always continuous across the contact between the two materials. It does not break. It will be always continuous across the contact between the two materials. So each of the individual solar cells which produce power of about 0.5 volts with current will be directly proportional to the cell areas. Okay, which gives a power of 0.5 volts, current will be directly proportional to the cell area. If the cell area increases, current increases. If cell area decreases, current decreases. So the individual cells are connected in series and parallel combinations. After that, I will tell the series and parallel combinations. So these cells are connected in series and parallel combinations. How many series and how many parallel combinations are decided by the voltage power required for us. Voltage and power required. And this also depends upon the reliability requirements of the application also. Okay, how many series combinations and parallel combinations? Those are dependable upon voltage, power and our applications. Suppose space cells are covered with transparent cover slips. Okay, space cells are covered with transparent cover slips because to absorb high energy particles in space. Okay, in order to absorption of high energy, these are covered with cover slips because if you do not cover these with cover slips, they may get damaged in the cell and there will be degradation of output. And for terrestrial applications, the solar cell panels have to be encapsulated. These should be encapsulated to protect them from atmospheric degradations. Okay, so what are these atmospheric degradations means? They exist due to oxidation of metal contacts. So this oxidation of metal contacts, it causes peeling and open circuit materials such as glass, acrylics or silicon expases. These are used to provide a clear and weather-fight front covering for the panels. Hi everybody, my name is Rupa, working